Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, and it's that auspicious date, 9/11. I'm sorry, but at what point do we stop? I guess we never do. I mean, at what point does a nation move on, literally move on? I don't know. God almighty. I'm trying to remember. It seems to me that, Pearl Harbor Day, which was another, unprovoked attack on the country, was something that I recall marking as a child. And then it would, I guess we never do. I don't know. I, for one, am not into anniversaries. There really are, I think, two kinds of people. There are people for whom dates have a great deal of meaning. I'm always amazed when people know the date that, like, maybe they were, I don't know, first dated somebody or were engaged, or and then if something happens on a date, how, they can fall into I don't know. I don't get it. Excuse me. I'm not even being coherent here. It's why I sort of don't get into a lot of holidays. I don't like being forced because of a calendar. I'm just obstreperous, I guess. I just don't like because a calendar says this is this date, that I then have to behave in a certain manner or feel celebratory or give somebody a gift. I don't get it. Never have, and I know that makes me the oddball, not you. But anyway, I acknowledge it's 9/11. It's a day, of course, that those of us who lived through will never forget. No doubt about it. I really, if there's one piece of my history and broadcasting that I would have liked to preserve, but didn't at the time even think about it, it would be the 9 hours I spent on the air that day. Taking it in like everyone else in real time, my reactions, my disbelief, my rage, And again, I think I was most startled by the fact that most people felt fear. I didn't feel fear. I felt rage. Just incredible rage. And I didn't get everybody running to get their kids. I've talked about this before. As if what? I didn't understand it. I must be a real strange person, I guess, because I just so often am looking at what is the norm or how most people respond to things, and I'm like, huh? I don't know. We have a caller already. Yeah? Caller, go ahead. Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Hey, I agree with you. The anniversaries. Yesterday, my wife had been married 42 years, and we said happy anniversary, and that was the extent of it. We don't. A lot of people have some big party or some bullshit like that. I said, oh, bullshit. I just don't. We don't do that. We used to go out to eat, but really, what I wanted to say is, I know you get you off the subject of 9/11. I don't even like to bring Trump or the Democrats, But I wish the Democrats would challenge Trump on the economy. I'm so tired of him lying about the economy, about the greatest numbers in history, which is not true. Obama had the better numbers as far as the jobs created, and they're all chicken shit jobs like fast food restaurants. That wasn't even considered a job way back then. But now that's all of a sudden that's employment. And some of it's part-time work. And they had a Biden, if he does get in, or whoever should say, listen, when Obama and I got in here, here's where the numbers were. We were going into a deep, maybe a depression. We pulled it out. You got a sweetheart deal when you got in there, and you put a little sugar at it, threw a little sugar at it, and it went up a little bit. He's the biggest goddamn liar I've ever seen in my life, and need the challenge on it. He did nothing for the economy. The economy is doing by itself. The presidents really don't do much for the economy. It's pretty much, now you can have bad policies, but the things they're doing are not changing. The economy's going to go up and down on its own because we have the stupid stock market and this free enterprise bullshit, which dictates how things go. So that whole bullshit of the president. But Obama did get us out of a deep recession and got us on the map. So they need to keep pushing that because I'm sick of hearing him about the economy. He took all his businesses. He turned them into bankruptcy. He's not good at anything. He's like a bad boss you get, and everybody says, my God, they hired that guy. He has no background. He's going to be really bad, and the guy's worse than anybody could even think. They need to impeach the son of a bitch right now, because I don't think it matters if he gets impeached, but please put it on the record books that he should be impeached. And then let the Republicans live with that, because that's what they need to do now. They're playing games, and they're going to piss around, and what's going to happen is they're going to lose this election because they're stupid, as they always do stupidity. If the election is close, Trump will win, he will cheat. So you better have a landslide victory to get this asshole out.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that rant, but
that's okay.
When I turn that TV on, it pisses me off.
I understand.
The lies and the Democrats aren't doing enough.
I hear you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.
He's definitely had his coffee this morning. Yeah. Well, I want to share with you a piece that Dana Milbank wrote in the Washington Post today. And it's seemingly a little item that didn't get much press. And it's indicative of what is happening to our government, to our nation, while Trump distracts the media and consequently us with his, ongoing reality show. So while all this craziness goes on and we hear about the dysfunction of this administration, let it be made clear, quietly, things are getting done. And the things that are getting done are things that you and I would be appalled by. They're getting done. The sort of dismantling of the regulatory abilities of the government. This is an administration that is an administration kowtows to the rich. And the rich don't like being told what they can do. They don't like being told they need a permit for something or there's a certain regulation that they must adhere to. And so very quietly, all of these agencies that oversee what the rich folk are doing as they go about their business of raping and pillaging. All the time, these agencies are being gutted, especially of that group that stays through any administration. It is the workers, the scientists of NOAA, the scientists of the EPA, the people who have served through Democratic and Republican administrations and are used to having, a new boss come in with new ideas, but generally they just keep plugging along, following the laws that have been passed by the Congress of the United States or certain regulations that have been signed off on by the executive branch. I want to talk to you about just one little agency, the Bureau of Land Management. Now, obviously, just from the title, you can tell the Bureau of Land Management is a federal level institution that makes sure that federal land is being used properly, okay? Well, the rich have always tried to get their hands on this public land to extract money from it. And there's always been that tension. But under the Trump administration, there has been a concerted effort to essentially destroy the Bureau of Land Management and to get rid of, to force out these civil servants who have, through decades, tried to ensure that the mission of the Federal Bureau of Land Management was, in fact, realized. Here's the scheme. It was announced this summer that because the Bureau of Land Management is not about land in Washington, D.C., that they would relocate. The Trump administration is relocating the Bureau of Land Management out of D.C. Only makes sense, huh? However, here's the thing. 97% of all employees of the Bureau of Land Management are already outside of Washington, D.C. 97% of the Bureau is not in Washington, D.C. The only people who are in D.C. are, of course, administrative at the very top levels. Well, those are the people that are hanging on that the Trump administration wants out. And what they have figured out is that it is almost impossible to fire a civil servant. But if you want to get rid of one, wait a minute, there's actually a quote in here of how you get rid of him. Here it is. Mike Mulvaney, this is Trump's chief of staff, or it's his acting chief of staff, right? Is everybody acting? This is now the new title. Acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, said this last month. It's nearly impossible to fire a federal worker. I know that because a lot of them work for me and I've tried. But by simply saying to them, you know what? We're going to move you out to the real part of the country. They quit. What a wonderful way to streamline government. So they have actually been doing this in department after department, telling department after department, people who have always, lived, they have homes, families, children, blah, 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 blah. They tell them, you've been an exemplary employee for 30 years, but we're moving the whole damn office to Reno. And some people move. A lot of people quit. So, Bureau of Land Management is one of the agencies who has done this. They did it without any analysis of the costs of it, the impacts of it, and decided, as they looked out at the country, where would be the right place then for us to be if not Washington, D.C.? I got it. Let's go to Grand Junction, Colorado. Never mind that Grand Junction, Colorado is hours away from any major airport. It just turns out that Grand Junction, Colorado is just a hop, skip, and a jump down the road from where the current Interior Secretary, I don't know if he's acting, David Bernhardt, lives. So they moved the entire agency to essentially his backyard. He, by the way, is a former oil and gas lobbyist. His sense of public lands is, let me at 'em. His sense of public lands is not, let me protect this valuable resource for the common good. This relocation was overseen by the Assistant Secretary, Joseph Balash, who, up until the day he took his job with the government, supposedly to protect the public lands, he himself was working at an oil company. So be careful when you hear media talking about the dysfunction of this government, because we see its missteps and craziness on the global scale. We see the reality show that is the presidency now. But meanwhile, his department heads, his cabinet secretaries, are going about dismantling, weakening the government. It's really incredible. So the Trump administration has attempted similar relocations, and read that as actually trying to get rid of the civil service. They've done it at the Agriculture Department. They've done it at the EPA. They've done it at the Office of Personnel Management and other places. But the reality is 85% of the federal workforce is already outside of Washington, D.C. And in the case of the Bureau of Land Management, as I said, it's almost 100% are already out. So the ostensible reason for these relocations is BS. And what it is about is forcing out government employees. Bureau of Land Management has only a few hundred of its 10,000 employees in Washington. And they're going after those few hundred. So just be aware, I guess, that the narrative, the storyline that we are fed ad nauseum from cable news and all the others is so narrowly focused. And these things like this, oh, it's not a sexy story. What? The Bureau of Land Management is being relocated to Colorado Junction or whatever the hell it is. Yeah, nah, that doesn't seem important, but it is showing that the dysfunction, in many ways, has a real purpose. And the purpose is to allow the oil and gas companies, to allow corporate America, to allow these rich entities to have at it without any pesky governmental interference. We have a call? Caller, hello.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike in D.C.
Hi.
Or outside of D.C.
Slightly.
Yeah, what most people don't get is that the jobs for particularly land management and CDC aren't jobs that can easily be filled just by anyone. I know most people think that what we do is like putting widgets together. Any idiot can do this. But it's complicated, and most of those jobs that are moving have advanced degrees. So I encourage anyone who wants to go to usajobs.com and pick a job that you think sounds like you and try to apply. It is the most complicated, laborious tests, documents that you can ever believe. And I promise you, they will not find anyone in those local areas to take those jobs, which is probably the plan.
That's right.
Right? So then they can say, we don't have any staff.
Right.
There's nobody here that meets these requirements. Right. So we're going to have to stand down or just run on a skeleton staff. And the oil lobbyists love that.
That's right. That you force out the people that, know how the game is played, actually understand the mission, and then, you let the rapers and pillagers move in. It's amazing.
And the people with the expertise of this.
That's right. Well,
the people with the expertise are leaving.
Those are the ones they want out.
Right.
They're
Which
throwing
is stupid
them out.
Because
especially people like scientists at the EPA. Out. They want them out.
Right.
They get in the way.
And they're already the only thing a government worker really has over anybody else is job security for life.
Yeah.
Now, guess what? They don't even have that.
No, they don't. They figure
So I know a lot of really lazy, horrible government workers doing what I do. But I also know a lot of experts who know their stuff. And you'd think that land management, think of the skills that have to go into that. City planning, being an attorney. Just think of all of the special skills that go into land management or CDC or whatever. So they're being short-sighted, but we're definitely going to be the ones that are going to pay for this in the long run.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. We already are. But
we already are.
Yeah, we already are. So, it doesn't matter that, everybody's talking today about Bolton being gone. That doesn't have an impact on us. That jerk is out of the White House, and yet you would think it was the biggest. I mean, I've been talking about it for 24 hours now. There is real stuff happening that is uprooting people's lives and diminishing the power of government to oversee, well, the robber barons, the rapers and pillagers. It's something. So have you found?
Yeah, and everybody.
Have you found new employ? Yeah.
I have. Mm-hmm. It's for the same agency I worked for before. More money, working from home. It's actually a better job and better for my career.
Good.
But the people that I work with, people that I'm friends with who are government employees, are sort of freaked by all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure that somebody in industry will take them. I have no doubt these people some of my friends are geniuses. We're the ones losing out. The country is losing out because where the best people are in Russia and in China.
They're at the government.
You know what I mean? They're right. And we get the people who know somebody.
Yeah. Right.
I work with a woman. I watched her do a presentation yesterday. And the woman next to me said, as we're watching her, how did she get this job? And I said, oh, her dad is the friend of the owner of this company. And we just shook our head and said, oh, contractor. Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
So that's all this will be, is giving jobs for people who are not qualified, as a way to stop legislation or requirements from moving forward. Where that has backfired, though, is with the Patent and Trademark Office, because they tried that with them a long time ago to starve them. But then the people with patents freaked out, who needed patents to be approved, freaked out. And now that's like a tightly wound machine at USPTO,
Patent and
Office.
Trademark Office.
Yeah.
Huh. Well,
So
yikes. There we
you got to give them props for figuring this out, though.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, exactly. They figured it out, and they're busily doing this, and our media are sleeping. That's why I want to thank Dana Milbank for bringing this to my attention. I didn't see it before. I'm sure there's little items that do note these changes in venue and things, but not a big to-do is made of them. And we're just so inundated with the ongoing you-know-what show emanating from the White House that we lose track of the real dismantlement of our government. Hey. So,
and most people would say bravo.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Those long-term thinkers, right? Thank you.
Right, but when that stream they walk by turns red because some land up above was given a permit to dig God only knows what out of the ground,
right.
Then they'll complain, and then they'll say, "Why didn't my government protect this stream?"
See, and government doesn't work.
Be too late.
That's right. Government doesn't work. Right.
Right.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye. We have another call. Caller, go ahead, please. Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
It's Susie from Swiss Helm.
Hi, Susie.
My sister is a senior scientist in genetics, toxicology, and a bunch of things along those lines. She's worked for government and worked out of government. She has friends in just about every government science office there is. She has a lot of friends who are still at the EPA, and they have been basically told to do nothing. They go to work and they do nothing. And they on Twitter, there are people who post. They call themselves like ALT EPA, alternate EPA,
yes.
with all of these scientific organizations, and they talk about what's really going on in their departments, and they do it in a way that they can't be caught
right.
by the government. My sister and a few of her friends have also started a Facebook page called Time for Some Science, where they post what is going on in different places and what's not happening, and how this area, this country, this land, the air, the water, the animals, nobody's taking care of them anymore. And it's a very interesting Facebook page that she and a friend started. She worked in government off and on for quite some time. And at one point, this was years ago, years before this current president, she worked for the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta and was the person who doled out money to clean up landfills. So she would investigate all these landfills. And she had a boss who tried very hard to get his buddies these contracts. And she just wouldn't do it. So she ended up leaving and going somewhere else. But now she says that, either some of her friends are being fired, some of her friends are leaving. Industry is picking up a lot of them. She was picked up by industry a long time ago because she couldn't stand what was going on with government, even back in the George W. administration. and things got better with Obama, but now it's just falling apart.
Yeah, right. Well, it's not that it's falling apart; it's being dismantled.
Right? Exactly. It's just being dismantled, and they can't. The people who work there can't do anything about it.
No, they cannot. Well, thank you for that more personal anecdote.
But if you look at if people start looking at the alternate EPA and the alternate, other government LinkedIn pages, they'll have a better idea of what's really going on.
What's really happening. Yeah, thank you. That's good.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
And just a quick thing that Barbara sent me, this is from NPR's site. Disappearing, a lot of government data is now disappearing from government websites. I think we know that. Data on climate change has been removed from the EPA's website. The Department of Agriculture has deleted information on animal abuse. The Department of Justice has deleted information on violent crime. And under each act of this kind of data suppression is a commercial motive, always. It's a gun lobbyist. It's a coal company. It's a poultry company. It's the rapers and pillagers wanting government gone. And as dysfunctional as Trump's government is, they're doing a pretty damn good job on that. So you got to give credit where credit is due. Ryan Deto is back from vacation.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm good.
You look relaxed.
I'm a little relaxed. Got some California sun.
There you go.
But it was also really bright, so a little too much, I think.
It's too bright.
It is.
You're complaining about it being bright.
I'm such a bad California native because there's too much sun.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah, you came in too soon because actually I wanted to get to this story about the poor girl who fractured her thumb and the doctors totally screwed up the surgery that she had to have to the point where she ended up, her thumb ended up being amputated and replaced by her big toe.
Yeah.
Which was also, of course, amputated.
Yeah.
So she ended up thumbless, big toeless, a big toe for a thumb.
Yeah. And this actually happened to a close family friend of mine.
What?
Yeah, we were on a houseboat in California.
Jeez, God.
And they were getting a boat to the ski boat to go skiing, and the rope tied around his thumb. And he actually had to be helicoptered out to the nearest hospital. I think it was in Redding, California. It's in Northern California, and they cut off his toe and put it on his thumb because he loves to play golf. So he needed his thumb.
He needed his thumb for the grip.
You have to have.
But a big toe is a major part of your stability.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's a lot less important than your thumb is, right? I mean, thumbs are like everything.
But a big toe does not have the same.
It actually doesn't look that weird. I mean,
oh God!
It's pretty obvious that it's like not the thumb, but like it's not that weird,
Well,
so
this is
really
actually
works.
doctor caused. I mean,
that's really unfortunate. I'd be very upset about that.
They kept a tourniquet essentially on the thumb. They were to keep during surgery to keep it from bleeding.
Yeah.
While they're doing the surgery, and then they bandaged her up and stuck her in a cast, but they didn't take the tourniquet off.
Oh, boy.
So 5 days after the surgery, she's in agony. She goes back. They take off the cast, and there's this blackened, dead thumb.
Oh, no. Oh, it's like in Harry Potter. When Dumbledore has his... Never mind.
I don't know. So, I don't know if you saw this, the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, has come out with a report Shocking.
I'm
I'm gonna
I'll
be just
as
ask
shocked.
you to read the headline out loud.
Okay. Gap between rich and poor gets bigger. No. How could that be? Honestly, that is the biggest story of the last decade by far. And it gets a decent amount of coverage, but it should be like every day.
Yeah.
It should be like every day, every cable news network, everything is like,
Yeah.
wow, we still haven't solved this growing inequality problem that we have in America.
In fact, it's getting worse.
Yes,
and
and we have
worse and
so
worse.
many distractions, and Republicans they don't even have an answer to the inequality problem.
No, this is what they want. They
have
exist
no
to,
answer to it.
Hand over everything to the rich because then the rich create jobs. You don't know this?
Oh, that's right. They create the jobs.
The rich then create jobs for the rest of us.
That's right. Jobs.
And haven't you seen? There's tons of jobs.
There's so many jobs. In fact, there's so many jobs. A lot of people have
It's
two or
two or
three
three,
jobs.
I know.
And they all
It's
pay
like,
not that much.
I know. Hey, we got so many jobs. You can all have 3.
Oh, did you see? Out of California, the California Senate just passed
Yes.
a job against the gig economy.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes.
I think that is like, I'm not sure. California politics is a lot different than national politics.
Well,
but man, I'd love to see.
Yeah, okay,
that,
yeah,
that, that
it
take
totally
over
is.
Other,
It's another
other state legislators.
It's another country, but California is saying that if you work for Uber, you work for Lyft, you work for in this
Grubhub,
gig economy, you're an employee.
Absolutely.
We don't care what the friggin' your boss says.
Yeah.
You're
Instead of an independent contractor, which basically means you run your own business. And I've actually worked in the gig economy or whatever for a dog walking company for a few years when I lived in Boston, and in California too. And yeah, it's I had a pretty good job there, but it's not the same. You don't have health insurance. You don't have paid time off. You don't have anything like that. And I think there are maybe some employers, smaller employers, that maybe should, I don't know if should do it, but like could do it, and it's not the end of the world. But when we're talking about large companies that go public on the stock market, like Uber, like Lyft, come on. I mean, they have the money to clearly hire employees and not just gig contractors. So, but that's all part of that growing inequality, right?
Huge pushback here.
Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
And the thing about this most recent GAO report, and again, anyone who's paying attention will know this is true too, but they're now confirming it, that the impact on Americans' lives of this huge gap between rich and poor is clearly a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
That the rich are increasingly living longer and longer, and the poor, they're dying, and they're dying earlier.
I've even heard. I even saw a study that showed that the growing inequality is bad for richer people too. Like it's bad for their like mental health. Obviously not their physical health because they are living longer, but like it's just bad. It's just bad all the way around. Clearly, it's the worst for poor people because they're the ones that are getting less wages, working harder. But it's bad all around.
Okay, well, screw the rich people.
Eat the rich.
Yeah, exactly. Eat the rich. As your guy Bernie Sanders said in reaction to this, poverty is a life-threatening issue for millions of people in this country. And the GAO report confirms that. The poorest 40% of women, so that's a big hunk of American women, the poorest 40% of American women actually now have lower life expectancies than their mothers did.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And what's also crazy is I saw this tweet the other day that was talking about like percentage of people in each country who live in extreme poverty, and like America is still like low percentage wise if you want to compare it to like, I don't know, like India or something, but there was like 0.3, but Pakistan was 0.3. Like we're on the same level as some countries that we'd be like, wait, we're on that level, and like no European country was on that level, and it's just like, why do we accept this in America that like we are like oh, well, we're on the same level. Same with like our education. Like we accept like our education being like basically on like not even close to any European country or Japanese country. And we're like, oh, well, it's just how it is. Like, what? Why? We're supposed to be the best, right? Like,
well, no, we've been propagandized to the point where Americans really do believe we're the best.
yeah.
And so they can't even take in information like
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
They can't take it in.
Yeah, and American exceptionalism is really, I remember it just even reading history books in high school. This idea that like I went to Europe as a kid, I mean as a young adult, and I just remember thinking like, hey, yeah, we won World War II and like going around all these things and then like getting perspective and being like, oh wait, we're not much different than any of these other countries. Like, why did I think this whole time? Why did I think that we were so, flawless? I guess like every country has flaws, and we have flaws, and I think it's time we accept them and just think about how to fix them.
I was thinking about with this GAO report and how everything in this country is so fucked up now. And I happened to read a book review. It's a woman who wrote it was a poet and writer and professor, and she got a diagnosis of triple negative breast cancer, which is, really bad. Young woman. She ends up writing a book throughout her ordeal. But she points out this, and here's what the reviewer says. And here's America today. She lives in one of the richest countries in the world. Yet the hospital considered her double mastectomy an outpatient procedure.
Wow.
Evicting her from the recovery ward before she could stand up.
Wow.
And she had to return to work 10 days later after her surgery and give a lecture on Walt Whitman with drainage bags stitched to her chest. This is America.
Yeah, yeah. What's so crazy is that those stories, like, I don't know, again, talk about, like, the media. I don't know why those aren't huge TV front page stories every single time they happen. And they happen all
because
the
they're
time.
off the narrative that all of our major media companies are glued to, the narrative. And it has to do with jumping to, Trump's latest tweet or this kind of thing.
Meanwhile, or really anything, really like Caravan or any like immigration coverage. They like, but what I don't get is that they're clearly motivated by ratings, right? Which is like a definitely a broken system we have in America, that all these media companies are like solely motivated by ratings. But those stories would get good ratings. That's another thing I don't get, is that these really terrible healthcare stories are super relatable and would get incredible ratings. But it takes Democratic politicians and really the most like far left ones to like trumpet those stories out there before anybody pays attention. Those should just be the huge stories. Like it's just, I don't know. It's sad.
Everybody knows a horror story. I mean, of their own. I mean, in their own.
Oh, definitely.
So the best stories are stories that people relate to.
Absolutely. And healthcare is a really huge one, and it is a big issue for voters, but man, I think like in the post-Trump era, we've really just seen the circus of media and how it interacts when there is someone who's willing to manipulate it as much. I think that's really what it is that the norms used to be that bigger politicians would kind of back away and would take a more measured approach to manipulating the media. And now we have somebody who's like, no, I'm going to do it. And it's working to a good extent, right? Like North Carolina, like the Republicans won yesterday. I know that's a gerrymandered district, but
okay.
Still.
And I just want to say that Frank Bruni wrote something today that I've been saying ever since he got in. We will never, ever be rid of him. In other words, you just said that he was exploding the norms of a president.
Yeah.
Right? He will explode the norms of an past president.
Yeah.
He will not go away.
Yeah.
And
I think the only it's not a silver lining, but what I feel more optimistic about is that there are going to be a lot of Trump imitators after him. They're not going to be as good as him though. Like this is his skill. I really think this is his
reality television.
Yeah, you know, in the same way that Obama's skill was being like super charismatic and super intellectual on things, that he really like got a lot of Americans to buy into that. Trump's skill is manipulating the media to be reality TV. That is his skill. There will be imitators. I'm not sure they're going to be as good at it in the same way that
he'll never
it's
go
really
away.
hard to find another politician as charismatic as
And
Obama.
here's the scary thing, and I do think this is true too. Bruni says he'll move heaven and earth to maintain his omnipresence in American life.
Definitely.
Because it's his lifeblood. He has to.
He'll probably start his own TV network if he loses.
Exactly where I'm going.
Yeah.
So he's already voicing, unhappiness that Fox is not sycophantic enough. I just
Which is insane.
Is not licking his boots and kissing his ass enough. So he's gonna. I absolutely do think he will establish a media empire of some sort.
Or he'll take over OAN or whatever it is, that
and
that kind of fledgling Fox News that's gaining
in
and popularity.
It'll be you're really going to have a Trump network. And I just want to read some quotes from. He went, to North Carolina to get this guy over the top.
Yeah.
Listen to some quotes from the people that were there. I mean, we know this,
I'm
but
scared.
Here's one woman who says, "This is like a pep rally of like-minded people, and we feel safe here." Yeah. Well, why would she feel unsafe?
Well, I mean, that's I think it's because the conservative media has done amazing work in terms of making conservatives feel like they're the persecuted ones in America.
Well,
which is absurd.
You just fed me into the next one.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly of Fayetteville said that Trump understands that the people who experience most discrimination right now are us Christians.
I can't.
And then he goes on, I hate this racist
When
nonsense.
has a Christian ever been fired for being Christian?
I don't.
Which is illegal, by the way. But
And then he goes on, I hate this racist nonsense. It's just a political ploy. You can say anything you want if you're a Muslim or an atheist.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's just it's a total false reality. It's so a false reality. We have a prominent Muslim, congresswoman from Minnesota who says, quote unquote, whatever she wants, but not really. She says, leftist things, and she's literally being attacked at every angle.
It's not worth even responding to these idiots. Listen to this. Tricia Hope, age 55, was attending her 23rd rally for Mr. Trump.
Oh, geez.
She sells a book of all the president's tweets since Inauguration Day.
Why is that?
And she says
that book has got to be like this thing.
I know. Well, she's an entrepreneur. I think she goes to the rallies, probably makes a lot of money. And here's what Hope says about Trump's tweets. These are history, and they need to be preserved. And they have never been inaccurate. She said she has read every tweet about 50 times.
What about Kofefe and all the other weird things that he's tweeted? I mean, again, it doesn't matter. You're right. It's a total false reality they're living in.
Okay. I want one of my biggest. I go nuts with the hurricanes, flooding, blah blah blah, and these idiots in the Outer Banks and all, and they rebuild.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Canada. There's a New York Times article today.
Okay.
Canada is telling people who live in flood-prone places, you're going to have to get out.
Yeah.
Governmental action is going to be needed to obligate people to make better decisions. Here's what they do in Ottawa. If the damage from the latest flood exceeds 50% of the value of your home, you will be given a notice that you will be offered money to leave. And if you don't take the money, you're on your own.
Got it.
You will.
Yeah, that's a very good carrot and stick approach, I think, to that problem, right?
Quebec is even more. The province has said it would set an upper threshold for assistance. So any house that's you're getting federal aid because your house flooded, they're going to cap it at $100,000 for the house.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
So if you get $100,000 the first time it floods, the second time you get nothing.
Got it.
$100,000.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting.
And then they say after that, homeowners can face a choice. They can sell their house to the government. Now, the government will pay no more than $250,000, regardless of the market value of the house.
Yeah.
Or the people can get money to rebuild one last time, but in doing so, they forfeit any future financial assistance.
Wow.
This is the choice that they're given.
Yeah.
And they say that the payouts are capped at $100,000 and the house price is at $250,000 out of a sense of, get this is so not American, out of a sense of fairness to taxpayers, particularly since an average taxpayer might not be able to afford a waterfront home in the first place.
Sure.
So is it fair to have that person's taxes used to buy a $500,000 house for a rich person?
No.
No.
Yeah.
So they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Here in this country, we keep doing it.
Well, actually, this just sounds like, this sounds like an amazing thing that would be for America because, speaking back to California, is that one of the biggest problems is we have wildfires in California, obviously, and a lot of people keep building farther up into what would be more wildfire-prone areas, and those people are rich. Like, there's no doubt about it. They want to be up in this, up on the hills, up in this beautiful area. They can have views.
And then we're going to bail them out?
And consistently. We consistently do. It's a huge problem in California.
And people risk their lives trying to save their friggin' homes.
Yes, and they die.
Yeah.
And it sucks, and it's awful. And that's a really good point, but it also goes against, because this is such an American, I think
that's
a really
what they say.
bad American
thing. You can't
thing.
do this.
Well,
in
yeah,
America.
because Americans are just I want to live where I want, and that's
my
it.
property
Exactly.
too. My property is more important than some firefighter's life.
We can't even convince.
And I get to go and it's true.
We can't even convince people to live close to transit in dense areas, which would actually be best for everybody, because they're like, oh no, but I have to have my yard or whatever weird.
Well, see, here's what
people
don't have a sense of the greater good.
No.
That's the particular American. This is American exceptionalism.
Yes.
The cult of the individual.
Oh, totally. Individualism
the
is so
individual and private property.
Yeah.
And they do say in this article that the Canadians obviously have an advantage over the United States because Canada's constitution provides no explicit protection for private property.
Oh.
So, and all our laws, I know, all our laws,
slave owner, just saying,
are every regulation and thing that we're so generous to property owners and to the greater good, the taxpayers.
Well, the system is stacked against taxpayers who are poor or even taxpayers that just don't want to live in flood-prone areas in North Carolina. They want to live in a city or in an area where that's not a problem. You know?
So here's a minister in Canada. He's the public security minister. He said, if people deliberately rebuild in danger zones, at some point they're going to have to assume their own responsibility for the cost burden.
Yeah, personal responsibility.
Says,
that's
right.
Yes. That's American.
And
right?
he says you can't repeatedly go back to the taxpayer and say, "Oh, it happened again.
Yeah.
Give me some money."
Yeah.
And we do this over and over, and our elected officials fall all over themselves helping people rebuild.
Yeah. Well, our
even New Orleans, they pull it back.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not
well,
crazy.
Our electoral system is disproportionately towards rural and I mean like rural or suburban or exurban, constituents, like, because a lot of states like North Carolina last night, their districts are extremely gerrymandered to give more power to the exurban and rural constituents. Right. And then just our Senate in general is just totally stacked for rural things. Totally. And it was meant to be that way at a certain point. And
in
we should
1780, for Christ's sake.
Well, no, when they added all the state, there's a real there's such a good story about after Lincoln, after the Republicans passed got the 13th Amendment through and abolished slavery, the Republicans in the White House post Lincoln added states to the Union in order to keep a majority in the Senate. They added Nevada and Wyoming and Montana. Nevada had like 7,000 residents at the time. Like, there was nobody living there. And it was a state. It had 2 senators, 7,000 people. And so it's like this whole idea that, like, we can't change the Senate and stuff like that. It's because of, but I mean, these things are linked to, like, why we have these policies that don't make logical sense. And then Republicans, they just love to talk about, the market and all this stuff. No, this is what's best. They don't believe that. If they actually believed in efficiency and the market, we'd all be living in dense cities with transit taking us places so that we don't have to waste money building roads for individual car use. They are full of crap in terms of their argument, in terms of their economic arguments. They just don't really have a leg to stand on. I wish people would call it out more often.
Okay, we have an email in from Susie, who has been looking for a job for 9 years. We were talking about the great jobs that this administration has created. She says, my field is PR, marketing, news media relations, social media, and television production. No one wants to talk with an almost 62-year-old lady.
Sure.
Yeah. I work tons of projects, take lots of money from my retirement, and today I'm interviewing for a phone room job at CVS that pays $15 an hour, the largest healthcare provider in the country. It's not enough money to keep my home, but enough to keep me off assistance. Trump care is far worse than Obamacare. So many people my age are out of work or underemployed, working a few jobs to make ends meet. Many have run through their retirement money. Employment in this country sucks.
Yeah. Well,
wow.
yeah.
That's some, yeah.
Yeah. It just, and also too, there's another story recently. The census just showed that we're losing insured people for the first time since Obamacare was passed. I think I'm going to have my intern work on a story about that, actually, because I mean, this is another thing. It's like, why would we want people less insured? Like, that's a terrible thing, and directly related to that. And I should also say too that, like, for people who are 62 and they still need to look for work, one, it would be nice if we can get them work. Two, it would also be nice if we could just expand Social Security like we've been trying to do for years. And that would also help. We could easily expand it. There's no reason we shouldn't expand it so that people who can't find work and it's very hard for them to compete against younger people and these other things can have the retirement that they deserve. It's not.
Well, I mean, judging from Susie's email, think of all the Americans who are heading into a retirement where they've already spent the money because they can't find jobs because of age discrimination.
Yeah.
Well, what's going to happen? You can't live on your Social Security benefits usually.
Yeah. Well, I think.
And if you've been underemployed for years and years and years,
yeah, it's sad. This is why we need to expand it. It's not even a question of like, can we afford it? I mean, that question has been thrown out the window when they did the tax cut. So, and that idea that we have to have fiscal responsibility is such BS. So yeah, it's really sad, and I totally feel for people who are in retirement age but still need to work because we aren't providing enough assistance to them, and this idea, and then people always say like, oh, well, they didn't save enough money, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, again, we're in an era of increased inequality. It's hard. It's super hard to save money. We can't expect
they're
people
living from paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
And,
we have the money.
often without health insurance.
Yeah.
So one
One little slip up.
One little slip, literally, one little slip that lands you in the hospital, and there goes your future.
Yep, totally.
This is the country we live in. There's no other civilized country in the world that operates
Especially
like
a country as rich as us. We're very, very rich.
Okay. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
We're out of time.
Okay.
And I'm willing to bet that any nice endorphins that you had or additional serotonin release from your vacation has been obliterated.
They're all gone.
It's
Lynn took 'em
obliterated
away.
by this half hour. That's my job.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I get more back into my normal mode.
Ryan Deto, senior writer, Pittsburgh City Paper. Pick it up.
Yeah.
Read it.
Fall Guide.
Go online. I mean, the online. What just happened? The online. We got.
Oh yeah,
growing.
yeah. We've got a big increase in online readership. We're producing
It's
more
a-
content. I've got a really good story about driverless cars. Check it out right now up there. They're not what you think they are, by the way. The companies are admitting that.
I
But
think there's a story actually in today's Times or Wall Street Journal about.
I believe I saw that too.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
there's a lot of
okay, yeah,
driverless
there's
cars,
that.
which is good because
Yeah.
people need to change their
And
perceptions
they're
about what they're
saying
going to be.
it ain't what
No,
the hoo-ha was.
No.
Which I totally fell for myself.
Everybody did. That's the problem because, again, for another time.
There's so much crap to deal with. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
See you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.